Caitlin, can you take me through that second quarter play with Stokes that made you upset, and then you hopped into the back?
Quad. Like, that hurts. Like, the ref can't miss that, and then I have to play with a contusion in my leg the rest of the game. Like, it's ridiculous. Can't miss calls like that.
The next 24 hours are going to be genuinely difficult for Caitlin Clark's public narrative, and anyone who has been following this situation closely needs to understand exactly what is coming, why it is coming, and what the full picture looks like before the media cycle constructs its version of events and runs with it at full speed. Let us be precise about what actually occurred, because precision is what protects honest analysis from the framing that is about to dominate the conversation. During and after Indiana's loss to the Golden State Valkyries, Caitlin Clark had visible emotional outbursts directed at the officiating crew during the game itself. Then in the post-game media availability, she was direct, frustrated, and unfiltered in ways that professional athletes in positions of her commercial visibility typically avoid, because they understand exactly what the media apparatus does with that kind of material when it surfaces. She disclosed in that post-game session that she sustained a contusion in her leg during the game, a physical injury from contact that was not called by the officiating crew that is supposed to be monitoring exactly that kind of situation and protecting player safety in real time.
Right after when you
She
went up
said
to him.
I initiated the contact, which is fine. You can't knee me in the leg, knock me over.
Caitlin, for you, what do you think they did just defensively to make it a little tougher tonight than usual?
Yeah, I mean, I got some good looks. Obviously, it's hard. I think I played 10 minutes in the first half. I was just struggling a little bit to find a flow, and they're in my grill. They're probably the best defensive team in the league. They're really good at that. They do.
A fine from the league is a realistic possibility given what was said and the manner in which it was delivered. Clark appeared to understand that while she was speaking. She said what she said anyway, and that decision, which will generate significant negative coverage across multiple platforms over the next day, deserves the context that the coverage will deliberately omit. You do not reach a breaking point unless something has been building toward it for an extended period. What has been building around Caitlin Clark's professional situation has been accumulating for 2 full seasons under this organizational structure. The breaking point that appeared today is not a sudden emergence of a character flaw. It is the predictable destination of a path that started the moment this coaching staff began making the decisions that have generated this level of sustained and serious public concern. Now let us examine what she communicated in the post-game availability specifically, because the details carry significance beyond the surface level of a frustrated player speaking to reporters after a loss.
What they do. And I had some good looks that didn't go down, and then, I shot some tougher looks too, but, I thought I finally kind of played with a little bit more pace and a little bit more burst, especially down the stretch in the fourth, but hopefully I don't have to keep playing 25 minutes.
As the confusion goes, seems like
We'll just rub it out.
She's fine.
Yeah.
Shit.
Go knuckles on it and call it a day.
On the other end of the floor, Golden State 17 to 25 in the paint. Sophie, I guess what were the issues on that end?
I mean, they're a really good team. They have an offense and they stick with their offense, and they have fast guards. They have great spacing. They really are a very fundamental team on both sides of the ball, and that's a tough matchup for anybody. But honestly, at the end of the day, we have to stick to our schemes. We got to stick to our scout. We have to do what works for us. And
Clark acknowledged that she played approximately 10 minutes in the first half. She said directly that she could not find a flow and could not get into the game. Then she made a comment that observers watching the footage are treating as the most pointed and revelatory moment of the entire session. She said, with a visible expression that carried knowing weight, that she hopes she can stop playing 25 minutes. That is not an offhand remark. That is not the casual frustration of a competitor processing a bad night. That is a player of Clark's intelligence communicating something specific and deliberate in a public forum while understanding precisely what she is saying and who is receiving it. The expression that accompanied the statement told you everything about whether the comment was innocent venting or intentional messaging. It was intentional messaging. She is telling the public, through the media, that the minutes restriction is a fundamental problem for her ability to compete effectively. And she is doing it with enough of a visible awareness of the implications that the message is impossible to misread. The statistical record from this game confirms everything she is describing in terms of competitive impact. She shot 4 of 14 from the field, 1 of 8 from three-point range, 13 points in 26 total minutes, a -8 plus-minus. She had 22 total shot attempts across the game. For a player whose game operates on rhythm, volume, and sustained competitive engagement, 22 attempts spread across fragmented usage in a 26-minute restriction framework is structurally insufficient to produce the output her talent makes possible. She said herself that she had some good looks that did not convert and some tougher looks as well. That is an accurate description of what happens to a rhythm-dependent shooter who cannot accumulate enough consecutive possessions to build the timing and confidence her three-point shooting specifically demands. The 1 of 8 from beyond the arc is not a reflection of her shooting ability. It is a direct product of the competitive conditions under which she is being asked to perform.
Yeah, just for either of you, Steph talked a lot after the Las Vegas game about consistency, and it seems like it wasn't there tonight. Just what do you guys need to do to become a more consistent team?
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference was like, we played right into what they wanted to do. They're last in the league in pace. We're first in the league in pace. We scored 75 points. They scored 88. Like, we just did what they wanted to. We didn't dominate in that area, but it's also hard to play with pace when, you know, you're not creating turnovers, you're not getting deflections, you're not getting stops. I feel like that's kind of what allowed us to make a run there in the third and the fourth, is like we finally got stops and we were pushing in transition. Like, they're a great half-court defensive team. Like, they're hard to score on. Like, that's just reality, and they do things really well. They're really athletic. They rotate really well. But, you know, we still beat them from the three-point line, and that's their game. So, you know, it's got to be the other areas. Like Sophie said, I think we had 22 points. They had 22 points off of our turnovers. Like, that's a huge difference in the game right there. Got to be able to take care of the ball, and, you know, we can't let teams dictate how the game's going to go. We need to be the ones to.
The media is going to have a field day with the outburst footage. This is not speculation. It is the predictable behavior of a media ecosystem that has consistently made editorial choices about how to frame Caitlin Clark moments throughout this season. They will clip the most vivid footage from the game and from the post-game session. They will run it repeatedly. They will frame it as evidence of competitive fragility, emotional immaturity, inability to handle the pressures of the moment, or some configuration of character critique that centers the reaction rather than the circumstances that produced it. What they will not provide alongside that footage, in the portions of media coverage that have operated this way all season, is the complete context. She sustained a leg contusion during this game from contact that went uncalled. She is operating under a minutes restriction that her own post-game comments suggest she does not believe is justified at this stage of her recovery, or at minimum that she believes is being applied in a way that fundamentally prevents her from competing at her actual capability level. She has been the most fouled player in this entire league across 2 consecutive seasons. She has absorbed documented physical conduct in multiple games this season that reached congressional attention and international media coverage. She has never had a single foul call challenged on her behalf by her head coach in 2 full seasons of competitive play, while that same coaching staff has found occasion to challenge calls for other players. She is playing through a leg injury. She is fragmented into 25-minute blocks that prevent competitive rhythm. She is the most fouled player in the league without institutional protection from the sideline. And today she expressed frustration at the officiating system that allowed uncalled contact to injure her during a game. Is she going to face consequences from the league? Possibly. Is the conduct that might produce those consequences going to be presented by the media without the context that explains why it occurred? Absolutely and predictably. Does that selective presentation reflect the full reality of what is happening around this player and what has been building toward this specific moment? It does not. Not remotely. What makes this moment analytically significant, beyond the immediate news cycle it will generate, is what it reveals about the internal state of Clark's relationship with this situation. She has maintained professional composure under conditions that would have produced this kind of visible expression from virtually any other professional athlete considerably earlier in the timeline. The patience, the return to the podium after difficult games to provide measured and professional responses, the refusal to publicly name the organizational failures she is navigating has been extraordinary by any fair standard. When someone who has demonstrated that level of sustained professional discipline reaches a visible breaking point, it is not because they lack character. It is because the accumulation of circumstances producing the breaking point has exceeded what even exceptional character can contain indefinitely. That threshold was crossed today, and the significance of where that threshold falls after 2 full seasons of absorbing everything this situation has produced tells you something important about how much Clark has actually endured before reaching this specific moment. The comment about 25 minutes deserves additional examination because it is the clearest signal in the post-game session about where Clark's internal assessment of her situation actually sits. The diplomatic version of that comment would have been something along the lines of expressing hope for continued progress in her recovery and trust in the medical staff's timeline. She did not deliver the diplomatic version. She delivered a pointed and knowing version with visible awareness of its implications. That is the language of a player who has stopped trying to protect the organizational narrative in her public communications. When Clark stops calibrating her public language to protect the people and the institution around her, the people and the institution around her should pay very close attention to what that shift signals. The organization has to look at what today produced in complete and honest terms. A player sustaining a physical injury from contact that went uncalled during a game. An emotional confrontation with the officiating crew. A post-game comment about playing time delivered with pointed directness and visible awareness of its weight. A probable fine coming from the same league whose officiating structure allowed the uncalled contact that caused the injury in the first place. All of it connected, all of it pointing in the same direction, all of it building from the same institutional failures that have been documented, discussed, and called out throughout this season from multiple directions, including elected federal officials and international media organizations. Tomorrow's coverage will focus on the outburst. It will show the most vivid clips. It will construct a narrative centered on Clark's behavior rather than the circumstances that produced it. That is a predictable institutional function of a media ecosystem that has made consistent choices about how to position Clark whenever her visible frustration becomes content-worthy. The people watching that coverage need to hold what they know. They need to hold the leg contusion from uncalled contact. They need to hold the 10 minutes of first-half floor time. They need to hold the 25-minute restriction and what Clark's visible expression communicated about her assessment of it. They need to hold the 2 seasons of being the most fouled player in the league without a single coaching challenge. They need to hold the pattern of physical incidents that reached Congress and the international press. They need to hold all of it as the complete picture that the selective coverage will deliberately not provide. The fine, if it comes, is a cost Clark appeared to have calculated before she spoke. Her manner in the post-game session was not the manner of someone who had lost control without awareness. It was the manner of someone who had made a choice and was prepared for what follows from it. That is not impulsiveness. That is a player who has decided that honest expression carries more value right now than the diplomatic management of a situation she has been protecting for 2 full seasons. Indiana's organizational leadership, from the coaching staff through the front office and upward, needs to look at today for what it is, not for what the selective media coverage will say it is, for what it actually represents about where this relationship stands and what it requires to stabilize before it deteriorates past the point of recovery. The minutes restriction needs honest examination. The question of whether it is medically justified at this specific stage or whether it is being applied in ways that serve other organizational purposes is one that the evidence of today's post-game session made more pointed than it has been at any previous moment this season. The officiating protection she receives needs to change. A player sustaining a leg contusion from uncalled contact in a game she is already managing under a physical restriction and then being expected to maintain professional composure about it is asking too much from any human being, regardless of their competitive excellence. The coaching environment and the organizational advocacy for her interests need to reflect an understanding of what she brings and what she deserves in return. Today was a breaking point. Tomorrow will be a media storm. The day after that, this organization will still have every decision that produced this moment sitting in front of it, waiting for the kind of honest and meaningful response that has not yet arrived. The clock on this situation is not paused, it is running. And what the outburst, the post-game comments, and the knowing smirk about 25 minutes all communicated today is that the player at the center of this situation knows it too.